Dun, 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 dun. Hello there, and welcome to our continuing reviews of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Disney Plus series that just keeps giving us many things we've both wanted and not wanted. So it's kind of a constant cornucopia. Joining me this week to talk about part 5, a very exciting episode, I have, of course, two of my favorite people in the world. Of course, joining me, as he has most weeks up top here, it's from Smirking Reviews, Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody? Excited to talk about this episode. And just to keep things moving, I'll just put it right to the
man downstairs from Enchantment of
want to
Eternity. It is, of course, Marc. How you doing there, Marc?
Yeah, I am doing very well. Very glad to talk about this show. Maybe not as excited as you guys are about this show, and certainly not as excited as my sister is. But I'm watching it and I'm digging it. So cool. I would always love talking to you guys. So yeah,
Excellent.
All for it.
Excellent. All right. And of course, Hayden, Silver Surfer, almost always there in the chat, commenting that his comments will be de-aged 20 years for our eyeballs to enjoy. Thank you so much, Silva. Thank you, everyone joining us, of course, in the archives. Please be sure, like, subscribe, notifications, all those things. I'm legally required by YouTube to say all those things. Not their competitor. But let's jump right into this week's episode. I was really curious where we were going to go. Well, they could very easily have wrapped up things last week. We all know how things had to go because we had 2 more episodes. So not entirely surprised by the course of events myself. But I'm going to take a moment, Marc. Let us know, how have you thought about this series overall? Has it given you what you wanted? Is it more? Is it less? Is it something different? And then we can start to move on to what you thought about this week's episode in particular.
So what I thought about the show so far is I was really impressed by this first 2 episodes. I thought, wow, this is I'm really digging it. This is actually justifying, because I was actually really skeptical about a concept in the Obi-Wan show that takes place before New Hope. I'm like, oh, how is this going to be interesting? But they really sold it to me. I really enjoyed seeing young Leia. I don't really care about the tiny little canon inconsistencies that don't bother me because the story's good, the acting's good. But as the show goes on, it feels like, personally to me, like they're stretching the story out. That the story actually could have ended in like episode 3, I think. And so I've become less patient with the show as it goes on, because it seems like they're just dragging this on, and I don't think it's really well paced. That being said, getting to this week's episode, I did really much enjoy this. I think it was a huge payoff for a lot of things, but again, I had a couple issues here and there with it as well, which I'm sure we'll get into as we go.
Perfect. Rob, how about yourself? What did you think of this week's episode? I know we were joking about last week of what we thought they were going to do, and how'd that pretty much work out with what we ended up seeing?
I think we were kind of, I don't remember everything we said about that last bit, but I felt like we were I definitely got more than what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to be so Vader heavy. I didn't expect the flashbacks at all. But I think we were getting a lot of like the plot with Reva,
Mm-hmm.
where that was going to ultimately go where, was she just, out for revenge against everybody, or was it more targeted? And I think we were right about that. And it was, getting trapped in a place. But overall, this is probably my favorite episode of the series, just because it just gave me what young me would have wanted in this. And I'm trying to put myself in younger me when even with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
I was like in my mid 20s when they came out. So I really liked that this gave me that kind of feeling from back then of a lot of just fun Jedi, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, like just facing off again in a way, like without actually seeing each other. Like I thought there was a lot to like in this, and any of my nitpicks are just nitpicks at this point, and way better than like I'd say episodes 3, especially. I think episode 3 is probably the weakest. And last week there was some pretty laughable moments in a although pretty decent episode, but this just it hits you right where where you want it. And we said if the show ends with a really good fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, then we're pretty much satisfied. And we kind of got it in this, and I now know we're gonna get like whatever next one's gonna be. It's probably like I said, we still have some hope to hear the music kick in and like the Duels of the Fate maybe or something, but this gave me a lot more than I thought I would get, and so it's pretty cool.
Right on. And it's fun because post-show and going through the internet and a lot of comments and things like that, that was one of the more consistent things is how much people loved seeing, especially like Hayden Christensen back, that they got the flashback scenes I know a lot of people had wanted to see. And of course, I've been talking about, man, I want to see some force powers. I want to be reaching out and grabbing that ship. And so in so many ways, this episode did give a lot it did give us a lot in our expectations and what we wanted to see. And I applaud the episode for that. To be honest, at minute 5, I didn't care what happened in the episode. It had totally already lost me. And again, it's to me, it's just it's that expectations that we were talking about this week. I know this is a kid's show, but the whole frame up of we had to come back here because now there's all of these families that we only have this one chance to get off the planet. I didn't tell you that before, but now we've got to do that. So now we can wait and go. The manufacturedness of all of the scenarios were just, to me, overly simplistic and almost episodic for any old show, 80s, A-Team show or anything like this. This thing just happens that you suddenly just learn about and just have to deal with. Having Leia having to be the one to climb up in the conduits to fix the mechanic thing. I guess the childish simplicity of the plot line, and even the stormtroopers coming down, that's great. There's like 10, and we're used to a giant squad. Even from first season of Mandalorian, when we had all of those troops come into the city and narrow down and bring up the E-Web machine, that was a sense of danger. For me, it was just like, well, we line up because we can't break in, and then we've got to have this talk and this fight, and it kind of robbed some enjoyment from me. So while I really appreciate a lot of the stuff that they've done, my ad for this was true. This is when I wish the prequels were my Star Wars, that I could see Hayden Christensen come back and be excited. To me, I just see a badly de-aged who still looks 41-year-old man fighting a de-aged Ewan McGregor. And I couldn't stick with it. So I'm really glad you guys found so much more out of this than I did. So yeah, let's get to our setup. Let's get to our being trapped on the planet. I know we really want to kind of get to the whole Vader-ness of this all, and I think that that's really important because while they're trapped on the planet, why doesn't Vader come down and do it himself? I mean, I guess you got to get them all, pummeled up. You gotta work them a little bit before you send in the general and so on. But what do you guys think of the whole kind of setup that we had for our adventure and the arrival of the Imperials? Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, I wanted to say I kind of like what you said about how, like, oh, there's just another stop, and we have to stop this planet with his families. That sort of speaks to to me, that speaks to what I was saying before about how I feel like they're just dragging things out and prolonging things. Now, as far as the Vader not coming down, well, because they need to save the big Vader thing for the end of the
Sure,
episode.
of course, of course, of course.
So that's to say, I don't know if there is really an in-universe reason for it. It's mainly a plot device. At least that's how I see it. Maybe I'm being cynical, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it.
Rob, any thoughts on our trapped group of force-sensitive children that need to suddenly get out of there on the next ship?
I was still kind of like shocked at like how you took it. I really am, and not like in a bad way where I'm like, come on, Darren, what's wrong with you? But more like I saw all those things you're talking about.
Sure.
It's interesting to me how we all see like the same thing, and we both see all the flaws, and like we still like will lean one way or the other, and it's like it's really just cool how like your points are all valid, and I just but how we like take it is interesting. So now I'm just trying to like go, okay, what do I think? And again, like I was listening a little bit to somebody else, and I mentioned how cheap it can look. Like sometimes this looks really good, and there are moments, and I think maybe a lot of it might even be in just editing. But sometimes it looks fantastic, and sometimes it looks terrible. And when they were rolling up with the stormtroopers, it just really looked like they could, like, can't you do better than this? I mean, if you've got why make a fake set? Like the stuff that they do in the Mandalorian and backgrounds and stuff, it doesn't look like they did that here. And I don't know why. Like it just, and if they did, I guess you can only do so much with a rock quarry or wherever they are.
Like, well, yeah, I think the use of this technology definitely works better in some hands than others. Some people know, I think, how to place and set things. And sometimes like this, they're like, well, it's the whole open vista. And you're like, well, that's great. Now it sounds like they're on a plateau surrounded by background.
Yeah, give it a little more pomp and circumstance and scope coming in, and this music, the score for this week was really, like really, really heavy. Like I think to cover some of that, to make you feel like you can ignore maybe how it looks a little bit if we just make the music more as intense as we can as the Empire music kicks in and you see all the stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
That part's exciting. I look around them and I go, I don't believe that they're there. Like I don't believe that this is. And again, I saw all that stuff and I just didn't let it bother me. It might bother me by the end of our discussion now, but all those things. I'm like, I don't care. And now I'm like, we're starting to scratch those stabs, and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna probably hate this by the end of it. No,
please don't let me ruin this for anyone.
No,
I want I want that enjoyment. I really do. I really, really do.
Yeah, them rolling up was just it just didn't feel. I feel like the music was working overtime for obvious lacks in wherever they decided to cut corners in these scenes.
Well, let's focus on the big stories.
Maybe. Well, wait, hold on one second. I just really quick, I wanted to say that I actually didn't have any problems with the visuals. Like with the stormtroopers rolling up, like it all worked for me. But that's just me.
Well, see, but that's perfect. And again, I was really looking forward to having you guys on this week because you do have critical eyes. You do have different levels of enjoyment on this, and very much of it's, I think, what people are bringing on from an expectation standpoint, both into the series and from episode to episode. The more, sometimes we'll see the exact same things with a similar critical eye. And it's, with the chaos theory from Ian Malcolm, you roll this way or this way, you go, well, this interrupts my enjoyment, or I don't care, man. I'm still watching Star Wars. This is a blast.
Well, yeah, and I also wanted to mention, I don't know if you watched my sister's review, Alyssa Jean. She loved this episode as well. Just like Rob, she said it was her favorite of the season.
Okay. Well,
Well,
let's get into a couple
well,
of the big.
real quick before we switch up. I mean, this is where, like, this beginning part, like,
Mhm.
and the stuff with the people that we're about to get to, I guess. These were the parts that I had the most problem with. It was like once the episode got like about 15 minutes in past all this, that's when I was like, oh, okay. Because I was kind of near where you were, where it was losing me fast.
Mhm.
And then as we get going, it definitely changed my mind.
Okay. Well, let's jump. We've got a couple of, I think, really big points here. Let's jump into the first, and I think people were very excited about, and that's really the return of Hayden Christensen, and basically done via these flashback sequences, a fight training between him and Obi-Wan, where obviously we are learning more about Anakin's character, fight style, and how that ends up reflecting onto the current adventure. So how did you guys, I mean, how did this work for you? How did seeing Anakin, did you love the flashback? Were you taken away from it? Did it work for you? Was it, how did these go? Because I know there was, again, a lot of expectations and happiness of Hayden Christensen's return. So Marc, let's start off again with you. What did you think of these flashbacks and the return of kind of Anakin?
Yeah, well, I don't have that big of a sort of nostalgia pull with the prequels, so I wasn't going like all crazy, like, oh, Hayden Christensen's returning, woo! Like some people were. I'm like, okay, he's returning. That could be cool as long as they use it well. And I thought they did. I really liked these scenes a lot. I thought it really worked for the story. I liked how they used it as a framing device to show how Obi-Wan sort of understands how he works and knows his weaknesses. What I love about this most of all, and this is something I'm only halfway through Rebels. I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but this is something I haven't seen any Star Wars property do, is like draw a direct line between Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, or at least the Anakin we've seen in the prequels. So, of course, the original trilogy hasn't done this because that hadn't been created yet. But this is the first time I really see, like, I can see that this Anakin from the prequels is the same person as Darth Vader, and that's what I really appreciated. And that's why I really appreciate how they use the flashbacks to illustrate that. Now, I was one of the people who really wanted to see flashbacks as well. I was hoping it would be tie in more to like the Clone Wars era Anakin, but where this seemed to be more like Attack of the Clones era. But I think and I kind of wanted more, but I actually think this works for the episode. It works for the story that they're being told. You don't want to do too much just for fan service. You want to service the story, which is what I think this does.
Beautiful. Rob, what about yourself? How did these flashbacks work for you?
It made me, again, like I'm not, I know what the prequels are.
I'm aware they exist.
You know what I mean? And I'll still put myself through Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith every once in a while, and I'll do some strategic editing of my own to get through them. And it's sad because you watch them and you can see a really, really fantastic movie in them. And so when I saw this, I just saw the good stuff. And I'm like, oh man, like I instantly, the chemistry's there. I didn't care that I saw, they could, honestly, it didn't even really feel like they tried to de-age him, in my opinion. You could see the lines, and I think they could have totally Michael Douglas Ant-Manned him, and I feel like they didn't really do that much.
Okay.
And I was fine with it. I was really fine with that. It was more like just the feeling of, this is what it would be like. This is Anakin before they even left to come back to meet Padme. This is like well before, like a nice chunk of time before Attack of the Clones, and that whole, the way that they cut it back and forth, to specifically show that Obi-Wan has, he may be Darth Vader, but he knows Anakin Skywalker. he spent so much time, and that's what's fun, I guess, for me and anybody who else is doing it that's watching like the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, and getting all that extra meat in there, is seeing this kind of stuff just really feels really cool. And you can see how those characters aren't that much different than their cartoon counterparts. And it made me go, God, like if they just decided to like show us make like a Obi-Wan Anakin movie on Disney Plus, where it's just a time from them in the Clone Wars before everything went bad, and just show, have them on an adventure, I would watch that for sure. I really got excited again for it. Finally felt like everything that they were talking about doing was happening in this episode. And again, it just made me realize that the prequels, are just as a whole, and if you watch it your own way, they can be fine. They can be a lot better than they are, or maybe deserve to be. I don't know, but it really just, it made me excited again for watching Star Wars in those moments.
Well, see, and that's good. That is a good use of character flashbacks and stuff. And you're right. I think the device that they use for this as a way of showing the insight that the two of them have, and or more specifically with this, really Obi-Wan has into Anakin's style and how consistent he is, even the fact he's gone to the dark side, I think was done really well. And I know for people that were really big with the prequels, Silva in the chat here, I know obviously one, this was kind of a great thing. Eric and Scott in the chat also noting that it was weird that Anakin was all old and stuff, which I agree on. Thank you for noticing, because I was like, are they de-aging? Because he looks pretty much like a 41-year-old guy fighting Ewan. Which again, either pulls you out of it or doesn't. It's one of those things. But I do appreciate the fact that they were able to bring him back. And this is kind of the nice thing that they can do with these series, is get a chance to revisit these characters. And I would love to kind of see more of some of those earlier times if they could do it well. If it just looks like, their current age now having an adventure, it would be very weird with my brain. But that would be the only thing. Animated, I'd be fine with that. But great. Well, let's talk about his nemesis behind it all, really, and that's Reva, who was revealed this episode, much like we had discussed, and I believe the rumors have been out there that her true prey through all this has been Vader, a way to position herself to get close to him for revenge against her Padawan demise, of course, which kind of was at Vader's hand, which brings it to another question that I'll bring up later on. But how did this feel for that kind of, was this a satisfying storyline? Were you glad this was where it went? Did it work for you? Rob, let's start this with you. How did you revisit it, especially that discussion with her and Obi-Wan through the doors? Let's have a parlay and we'll have a little Force conversation.
Well, I mean, we talked about right from the beginning, right, that we knew where all this was going. Mm-hmm. That she was gonna. I mean, right from jump, we're like, there was people out there that watched all four, had to get to here to realize she was gonna be one of them. So maybe I've seen too many things. I don't know, mm-hmm. But we knew where this was going, and I really liked what they did here. And the one thing we haven't talked about yet about this episode, and it's one of the reasons why I like it so much, is because this is a dark show, really. If we remove some of the lighter moments, this has got some really dark undertones, and it gets really dark in this episode, and I mm-hmm. was here for it. I loved it so much. It made me, and it's nowhere near Empire, but it gave me Empire tingles at moments, and and it showed how smart Obi-Wan is, not having to fight, thinking my way through something, which was something Anakin had a hard time doing. Mm-hmm. And although I do think he gets a bad rap, I think he thinks a lot more than he got credit for or gets credit for, especially if you read the comics and the books. But her knowing where her thing was going, but how they got to it with the powwow and him putting it together. Even though we've just been waiting for him to catch up to us. It's that undertone of like, with how Vader puts it later, like he was wise to use you against me. And it's like how much of what he was saying to her and like all that really was just to get her to, to do what he wanted in a way. He was, and I like the fact that that's where it went. And because otherwise it was, we know where this is going for that character, even if she was on Vader's side.
Right.
But this at least gives it a more like, oh, she's going to get a shake, like a chance at the throne, she's going to get a chance of revenge. And I don't know how far we're talking, but I'll stop there. But like, I just really dug at least up, until the end of this episode. We don't know what's going to happen after this. Well, maybe we do, but
you could guess or two.
I really liked how they led up to the final moments of her character in this episode.
Right on. Mark, what about you? What did you think of our Reva conspiracy here, and her plan and reveal?
This is probably the main issue I have with this episode. It's like, so are we led to believe that she became an Inquisitor for the whole point was to get close to Darth Vader so that she could kill him for revenge? That she didn't really care about like catching all those Force sensitive people, and she was just doing it as a means to an end, and that she wasn't actually evil.
Well, I mean, that's really up for the Disney execs. I mean, I think they could play it where there's that, or that she, is evil, but on top of that, she wants revenge.
Yeah, I don't know. Well. See, that was all very unclear. Like her whole motivations was very unclear, and I don't know. It just felt like kind of a waste of a storyline. Like, understand it was like, oh, this cool reveal, that thing we showed you in the first episode of the Order 66. It was from her perspective. I was like, ooh, big reveal. And what she do, she gets easily defeated by Darth Vader. So it seemed kind of pointless to me. It seemed like kind of like, what's the point of having this big, huge reveal where she spends her whole life trying to get revenge, and she's just pushed back so easily like a ponce. It seems like kind of like, I don't know, it seemed like a letdown to me, like a waste. And the whole thing about like Obi-Wan getting her to, but what he said, he was like, we should team up. And it kind of annoys me that she would have been better off not listening to him. I don't know why, but I don't know. It seems like she's an idiot. It's just a less of her character. I don't see necessarily Obi-Wan as a genius for doing that. I see her more as a moron. For especially trying the way that she did, like just trying to sneak up on Darth Vader with his back turned, like she actually thought that would fucking work, and then just getting like so easily defeated. I don't know. Maybe because she's not necessarily dead at this end of the episode, so maybe they're gonna do something in the next episode to justify that. But if they don't, I kind of see this character as a whole waste of time, honestly.
Well, well, if we're talking then about how it all goes down, my whole thing was, I was glad that where they went with it, because I knew the outcome, but I just wanted to see, like, this is the first time we've seen somebody in live action go up against Vader that isn't one of our Jedi friends. And so I just wanted to see him destroy her in a way. I wanted to see, I liked because we've seen in other media, people always taking a shot at Vader. I've seen it read it in books and comic books and video games and stuff, but it's different. Every time is a different experience. And we've seen it a lot. We saw it a lot in like Clone Wars and stuff, I think, every once in a while with, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but, we've seen all that kind of like how it plays out, but not in live action. And so I knew this was our opportunity to see Vader be Vader against somebody that he doesn't have to like, this person's probably not going to walk away from this, and he can just be the power. Like, we don't, like in the original Star Wars, he doesn't get to do anything really that cool. He chokes a guy, he can make people like, as in the prequels, Anakin's jumping all around, but as Darth Vader, we haven't gotten to see him too much, except for that hallway scene in Rogue One, but it's a hallway scene. And so it's just a bunch of people trapped in there. And as cool as it was, it's not this. This is him doing a Star Killer move with a spaceship. This is him doing little hand gestures to push somebody out of the way like nothing. This is what I wanted to see. And even if that's force porn or whatever, I don't care, because it's, again, I wanted to see badass Vader. And I don't care if it was any other way. It just was cool. I didn't think I thought it was unbelievable for her to sneak up on him and everything. And I just put it all out of my mind. I know it's there. I know what you guys are seeing, but it's just, I couldn't let it dampen the awesomeness that I was seeing, because I have been kind of like, that first encounter with Obi-Wan was like, well, the fire was cool, but if you really wanted him, you could have ripped him more, but this was something else. And he hasn't even faced Obi-Wan yet. I don't know. And the whole leaving her in the, gutter and making her like stay there. Like, it's, I don't know. I just dug it. And the guy who just comes walking back like, ha ha ha. I don't know. I was here for it. I don't know why. Maybe I need to have my head examined.
I don't know. I think a lot of people agree with you, actually, but I think it's just a matter of having different expectations or different wants from the show. Because for me, I'm looking at it from more of a story perspective. Like, if it made like better storytelling, I'd be more into it. But also, like, obviously, I think of it, I'm not as excited about this as you are, because I actually prefer the hallway scene in Rogue One to this. Because I don't know, seeing a bunch of rebel idiots with guns go and Vader just mowing them down was kind of awesome. But here, seeing someone who like spent their whole life and for this one moment just totally fucks it up and loses horribly, I didn't really get much out of that.
Well, I think there's a lot of points that are covered there, because, yeah, I think one of the high points on this, at least for me, definitely was kind of, Vader unleashed. Also, yeah, from a comparative standpoint, it was like, well, what the hell was all this other stuff for? If you could have just come down and just sort of mowed everyone down and taken over, that would have been awesome to see. But still, and I think Silva makes a note here. Reva should have attacked when Vader was force pulling the ship. Would have been better cinematically, in my opinion. That was the one thing I was like, this is cool. Takes up, rips the ship down, rips it open, and then the other ship takes off. It's like, why didn't he stop that one? Shouldn't you have done that while he was distracted by this? Or
yeah, see, so the one last point I wanted to make is, to me, it would have been more interesting. Like, you can still have Vader defeat her. Like, I was talking to my friend about this at work, and he's like, what, you want her to kill Vader? Like, obviously not. But, I mean, you can still have Vader defeat her, but for me, I would have been more interested if it was more of a fight, if she put up more of a fight, if it was more equal and not just an ass whooping.
Yeah.
But that's just my perspective.
Because, yeah, the ground choreography when she jumped around him and did things, that didn't work for me. And I agree, things happening at the same time while he's distracted, then attack, as opposed to, like you said, sneaking up behind like he's not going to sense you, was a little much. On the other hand, look, man, Vader force kung fuing and blocking the lightsaber, that was pretty awesome. That was pretty dope. When he started getting to the Chinese like leg lifts and things like that, it started looking a little ridiculous to me. But there was so much, to me, this is that kind of split stuff. It was like, yeah, we get to see the force pulling and the grab and the thing, but then comparatively, why haven't we seen some of this before? I mean, the guards seem like, or the Inquisitors seem like minimal force users, and maybe that's something that's done intentionally to prevent threats, which would be an interesting kind of discussion to have. But like you said, Mark, that starts to get into the kind of storylines and the whys that we don't they don't really take time exploring for the kid level storytelling that this seems to be aimed for, or at least wanting to kind of anchor in. I think that seems to be too complex of an idea. And to me, that's what limits the series, because that would be a more of an interesting, the whys that people are do things, more than just revenge. But I did want to get into our interesting crux here, and that is the uselessness of the lightsaber as a stabbing instrument. Because apparently Reva gets stabbed twice and survives. The Grand Inquisitor gets stabbed himself and survives. Poor Qui-Gon just really got the bad rap, I think, on that. Because isn't that how he gets taken out in episode 1? Yeah.
Well, that begs the questions: what's more useless, getting stabbed by a lightsaber or falling off an edge of a cliff? That's also seems equally as useless.
He got hit right in the midichlorians.
That's right. Ooh, nice. Yeah, without the fall, you can't get the Wilhelm, and we all know that that's required for everything. So yeah, kind of. Now, of course, for Rebels fans with Grand Inquisitor, believing that was the same character, knowing that he was going to come back, wasn't kind of a big surprise. It does. So the question is, so Anakin, assuming that Reva survives, which is where they're going for here, Anakin has now stabbed Reva twice with a lightsaber, and she survived both times, because they seem to have in the flashback that it was Anakin that got her, because he comes up close and she goes down and everything and then crawls under the kids. I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I don't like this. As...
He just went through the scar tissue.
So we did a Serenity here, huh? The old scar tissue bit. You stabbed me in the exact same place twice. But this is also that quite like, well, don't worry, we'll fix everything so it goes back to canon, and now Reva will have her revenge, and we'll just leave a force powerful, revenge-driven lady here on this planet where the rebels just were with their force, could come back. It's a known place. I don't know. Why? I don't know. Look, I love seeing the Vader stuff, but this is, I don't know. You guys have any thoughts? I got to throw in my charger. Do you guys got any thoughts on our stabbiness of the lightsaber and the constant, don't be worried? To me, this would lost me. I'm not worried anybody's going to die, because nobody does.
Well, I mean, I could say that. I mean, I thought it was really like full circle. I mean, I really wish that they had finished her off, only because it was like him getting the last kid, like finishing his job with the halfling. It's like that's where my dark brain was going in this, where it's like she did all of this to get to this point, and she's going to fail, but like when the way that they were intercutting it with the past events, it's like he got the last kid. Like it's like if he had, like, in a movie where a guy they think is dead and he's like, oh my God, I'm alive. And then the guy comes back in and shoots him in the head. And it's like, oh, no, you didn't get away. It's like, this took 10 years to kill her. Like, the first was a wound. This is for the kill, except it's not again. But he doesn't know that. But I just thought it was really dark to like go, he's finishing the job finally. I mean, especially when he's like, did you think I did not see youngling? Like, he remembered her too. Like, it's like really sinister to me. Like, it's like how he's ready to just do it again. And I don't know. I like that.
I don't know, the Grand Inquisitor coming back, like being alive and not even really explaining that does make me feel like lightsabers are useless. Like, I don't know. Like the Reva thing, not so much, but I don't know. That did seem like But then this gets into a whole argument. I got into a really heated argument with my sister over Star Trek. How I felt like she said there were absolutely no stakes. Like it doesn't matter because characters just will not die, and I thought that there were stakes. But with Star Wars, maybe it's a similar situation where it's almost there's very little stakes because if the plot requires it, the character's going to come back. Like, I think it's real. I'm loving Darth Maul's appearances in Clone Wars and Rebels. I think it is really awesome. But come on, there's no fucking way he survived that. I think that's ridiculous. So it does kind of. I think Star Wars has kind of maybe already crossed that thing where if the plot requires a character to come back to life, they will. So.
And let's be honest. I mean, Rupert Friend is great, but he's no Jason Isaacs. And I mean, just the voice itself is a total distinction difference. Now, of course,
we run that whole gambit of everybody can always come back. Like the one person that you expect to come back always keeps coming back, whether forget logic or not. And they've done that to death. And I mean, it was really special back in the old days when Krychek would always just pop back up on the X-Files going, how the hell did he survive the last encounter on that show? And he would just pop up like the cockroach he was. And it was great. But then they see those trends and they just ram them into the ground. And by the time you get to this all these years later, it's like, yeah, you know, they got to get people to buy the subscription still. So roll out Darth Maul and everybody else that's dead. Have some scientists bring back all the dead Jedi as zombies. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah.
Well, then we should take a moment as we talk about no stakes to give it up for a future return from the dead character Tala, who apparently protected by her lifelong hauler friend robot. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a thermal detonator of mass destruction that went off right there and killed everyone. We always love to sacrifice. Sad to see go. That was a character I wasn't expecting would die. So she dies and Camille Najani survives. I don't know if that's really a just world. But I mean, that's entirely... He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. I'm just saying...
He only conned families out of their whole livelihood by pretending to be a Jedi.
And he's looking to make some more. He makes that very clear. But like, great, more suckers.
This is why you need a second in command to Reva, so that person could have at least died in her absolute waste of her life.
Sure.
In the end. Just because, her robot went down and that made her sad, and then she reaches down and she's bleeding, and that makes her go, oh well, might as well forget it. And even though she doesn't know you can survive laser blasts through the stomach, that she didn't see that happen, so she doesn't know that she would probably be fine. And so we just have to have that extra moment of Obi-Wan looking like he's about to be overrun a couple of times. Which was, I thought, a little weird. That shot of him just yelling for her while he's fighting stormtroopers. Doesn't that mean that they'd have already overrun? I don't know.
No,
but it was a pointless death in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually really liked her death. Tala's death. I thought, to me, this is one of the high points of the episode. It got to me emotionally. I think the way they executed it, although there was one contrivance in the scene that kind of bothered me a little bit, is that how Obi-Wan was trying to kill stormtroopers to get to her. He could have mauled down those fucking stormtroopers and got to her if he wanted to, but the plot required her not to be able to get to her. So all of a sudden the stormtroopers were kicking his ass, which they wouldn't be. But other than that, I thought it was emotionally powerful, and I do think, all joking aside, that she will stay dead. I just get, I'll be pissed if she doesn't, but I do get that impression, and I think it was a powerful death. Someone who could have lived a really cushy life in the Empire, risked her life and ended up sacrificing her life to help others. I think this is sort of gets the whole spirit of the stakes of what's going on in the show. So I actually really liked it.
No, and and it was an emotional character that we were hoping was going to survive. So yes, her dying and that sacrifice, you're right, is a perfect arc for the character. It is a good moment, even though we do joke that she is the future returning from dead character. All right, so by the end of all of this, what we basically have is our last kind of Force connection, because, of course, Obi-Wan gets a stupidly sent message to him, whose entire point is to be the last episode plot device, revealing that there are children and Owen. Oh, that one Owen guy that I talked to in episode 1, I remember him. To kind of bring everything back to a threat to young Luke, which of course Obi-Wan is learning through the Force. Obviously, we set up big stakes for our final episode. Another personal draw why Obi-Wan's got to get back to Tatooine and do that Overwatch. Does it work? Is it too much? And just an aside, is the Force being used as too much as a plot device? Its strength depends upon how much we need it. Communication or sensing people works if we need it or not. Why do we have this bigger connection between Obi-Wan and Reva in understanding, as well as between Obi-Wan and Vader? Explains again why Reva. Why did you think you could sneak up on Vader? But our movement in for our last episode, the Luke reveal, does that work for you? Or is it, again, another just let's tack this on plot device? Why, in the midst of Secret Message, would Bail Organa send a very clear, expository, hush-hush, here's all the info message to Obi-Wan? Mark, go ahead.
Telling him stuff that he already knows.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, this most definitely is a tacked on added plot device, and I wasn't very pleased with it, to be honest. I think it's, I don't know. I don't know. But it depends on what they do with it, of course. Because I would like to see, because we do know that Luke knows Obi-Wan, old Ben. And he's like, oh, that's old Ben. So it would be nice if we see the moment where they meet, and they have that kind of they kind of know each other. But I don't know if ever going to switch a plot where the Inquisitors are trying to kill Luke now. Like, I don't know, because they can't really find out that he's Force sensitive, because then they would keep trying to kill him. So I don't. I guess you could just keep it with Reva and because she's not a part of the whole thing now, but still, it's like, but why would she? I don't know. Maybe next week's episode will explain everything, but I'm not very thrilled. I'm going to come into the storyline being very skeptical. They're going to have to try to win me over.
Okay. Rob, what about yourself? What did you think of this? And yeah, are they like opening up too many cans of worms that they can't get back in the bag of cats? I'm mixing metaphors, but you know what I mean. Are they doing too much that they can't fix or make sense?
I don't think there's any looking back now. Like, you know what I mean? It's in the can, and it's going to be what it's going to be. It feels like one of those final episodes where it's how close is he actually going to get to Luke? He's just over that hill. Like if he just keeps him fighting over there, he won't sense his son. I always wondered if Anakin's trying to keep the fact that he's Anakin a secret. Why wouldn't he go to and kill Owen and them like right off the bat when he way before this even happened, when he first became Vader? But that's what I feel like it's gonna be. But if Reva's still clearly alive, she's gonna use that information to do what? I don't, she can't go back to the Empire. So is this to just try to find if I'm going to get one last shot at Vader with a gut wound, it's going to be here? I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of things that I'm not going in with very high expectations, but every single one of these, I don't go in with very high expectations.
That may be the
So
way to go in.
I think, again, what did I say? I just want a good damn fight. Just give me a good damn fight, and that's about it. This isn't Shakespeare. This isn't David Fincher. This isn't even like some of the best episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars I've seen. Can blow a lot of this stuff out of the water.
Right.
So, but that doesn't make it that I'm probably going to still enjoy it, because in the end, it doesn't change any of the other movies. It doesn't really change anything in the end. They'll just be like, oh, that little tidbit and that little tidbit. Oh, this means that, and later on, and this means that later on. Oh, that's where they got this. And there was some cool action, and in the end, I got a cool fight, and whatever. I'm moving on to the next thing.
Sure.
And that's about it. That's all I expect.
Well, and let's not forget, they're still, they haven't made the jump to light speed. Their hyperdrive is down, and there is a Star Destroyer in orbit right above them. So they have to kind of get away, which means we also have to find a way for Darth Vader to stop chasing Obi-Wan now that he's there. Is that a fake death or something that we have to do? And get Leia back and stop Reva from killing young Luke in one episode. It's a lot to cover. And I hope they do. I hope that there isn't a necessary season 2 because they weren't able to tell this story in one. I think that would, like you said, Mark, really be dragging out something that could be told very concisely. I'm curious how they're going to wrap this up. I just wish that I was a bit more with the ride, even though I'm anticipating childish storytelling. Sometimes it gets a little too simple for me, and I just like a little bit of complexity. But I'm 50 years old, and I'm not 8, and that may be just on me. We got a little bit of time left, and I did want to talk a little bit about, just real briefly, Miss Marvel and the boys. So let's jump back into this episode. Yeah, I want to wrap up. Any final thoughts or ideas or points that people want to hit?
Yeah, there's just one thing I did want to bring up. There was another scene that really bothered me, kind of a nitpicky thing. But when they, captured Obi-Wan, or Reva captured Obi-Wan, she's like, "Oh, just put him over there." Like, why? Like, so we can kill all the stormtroopers and escape. Like, that was the comical thing. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. But no, that's all I had to say.
That's a good point. That is as I said, there were so many of those. I was like, yeah, okay, plot device to this. Now they got to escape and do this. Now Leia has to find her robot, not kill it, just find the little thing.
Oh yeah, she did that. It was so easy. She was like, "Oh no, why are you acting all weird?" Point. Okay, you're good now. Like,
yeah. We do like the easy switch that turns all the bad guys off or turns them back into good, saves the, we like those simple things. And I understand that. Rob, did you have any final thoughts or moments before we jump over to quick little corner? All right. Well, everyone, I do want to say there will be spoilers for this week's Miss Marvels and The Boys over the next few minutes. So if you haven't seen those, what are you doing? Go watch them. Then come back and watch these last couple of minutes. They'll make a hell of a lot more sense. Eric, Scott, please say something that will make it interesting for Miss Marvel. Okay, I take that challenge as offered, because while I have had problems with Obi-Wan, I've been enjoying the hell out of Miss Marvel. I've been enjoying it completely. Is it a kid's show? Yes. Do I know it's a kid's show? Yes. Do I have other expectations thus? No. It's beautifully told. I love the cultural stuff. I love how everything's intertwined. I love how they're mixing things up, and that there is kind of a discovery for powers. That's always the kind of fun training bit. And I love how they've kind of worked with this and the personality. So I've been really enjoying these past episodes. Mark, what have you thought of Ms. Marvel?
I didn't really like the last episode. I liked the first one. I thought that was really good, but this one got a bit too silly for me.
Sure.
Like how, especially how they had the evil team of government agents that are trying to hunt her down, and then the guy, the boyfriend that she thinks is really hot, just pulls up out of nowhere. Get in! I know they're building into he knew about it and he was kind of sought her out because of the powers or whatever, but it still seemed very, I don't know, cartoonish, I guess is the word.
Sure.
I'm looking for it. Like, I know that the audience is definitely aimed at a more teenage audience, which is fine. Like, Spider-Man Homecoming was as well, and that's one of my favorite MCU movies. I think there's nothing wrong with that, but it's getting a bit too goofy for me. But I don't know. I'll stick with it and see where they go with this. I do like the characters, and they're very well developed. And it's interesting getting, as you say, having a different cultural perspective in the MCU. And I just prefer the first episode. Like, I like when her father dressed up as a Hulk and doing this thing. I saw a lot of memes about that. That was good. But yeah, but I'm still sticking with it and see where they go with it.
All right, fair enough. I do have to agree. Any of the relationship stuff is always going to get me, and has since I was a kid in that age when that would have applied. So I completely understand. And yeah, I really don't understand. Is this Shield, not Shield? Good guys, bad guys? Who are these cop guys? That's a little, I don't know. But Rob, what about yourself? What did you think of Ms. Marvel?
Well, I didn't finish it.
I think that says something.
No, it says something, but it was more like I really liked the first episode, like Mark said. I really did, and I said it was charming as all hell, and it still is. And I'm really there for. I'm liking the different cultural perspective and a different family cultural perspective, and I really like her parents, and I like a lot of that group of characters, her family, and but everything else felt like you brought up Spider-Man Homecoming, and I felt like I was just kind of watching that again, that same dynamic, the high school, she's got her guy in the chair, she's learning her powers, she's colorful and fun, and Peter, just like all these comparisons to the same beats. The high school thing, and that's where it goes. Okay, I'm aging out of this, and that doesn't always happen, but it felt like the kind of like, if I watch Smallville, right, I'm fine with watching Smallville. It's from that time period, or like anything from like high school in the 90s or whatever. But I have a hard time watching future generations in high school situations as I get older, and I just feel a little more out of touch with certain, the way things are, even though they're really all the same, just different versions of it. And this is just like, I've seen it before, and so I just kind of stopped. Especially, I got to where she was practicing with her powers, and I was like, I've seen all this, and I'll finish it. I'm not disliking it too much. I'm just like,
Right.
I had a lot going on that day too, so
sure. That's
so
fair.
I kind of stopped, and I was like, well, if we talk about this, I'm not gonna have too much to say plot wise. But just I'm still fine with it, but it's starting to lose me a little, just a little bit.
Okay, that sounds fair. Now, what about the boys? I mean, if we're going to look at the opposite kind of side of the coin, I don't think you could do more than Ms. Marvel and the boys. As I continue to mention, Homelander is terrifying. I love now that we're starting to get powers in with the group, and how that is fracturing people up, and how Huey is seemingly getting very almost addicted, drunk on the idea of the powers that he has. It's a very interesting take. I'm really curious how this is going to mess with all of their dynamics. Well, obviously by the end of the episode, it seems to possibly be splitting them up. And God, Kamiko, man, got to pull through. We can't lose. The minute you have two characters saying this is the last job and we're going away, and it was like, which one of them is gonna go? Which one of them is gonna go? So, I mean, I obviously thought it was going to be Frenchie because they definitely showed the Kimiko's indestructible, bullet to the head's not going to kill her. We got a little bit more going on with Soldier Boy than maybe thought. But what about you, Rob? What did you think of this week's The Boys?
Again, I'm really, really liking every single episode that they've done. I was one of the things that I said that I was so happy with is that everybody seemed to be finally ready to just go all nuts and be with Billy Butcher and just start effing things up and going that way. And, with Huey getting powers and Butcher getting powers temporarily. And it just felt like they're on the offensive and I don't know, everything just feels like it's lining up to kind of head into this great end. And, but then you get, I don't know. The whole thing with Kimiko and Frenchie this time, and I love them, but I just thought that the whole I don't really want to do this plot line should have been like last season instead of this season. But that's just me picking and choosing when I would want something that I do think it would fit her character to not want to do this. I just didn't want it here. That's about it. Otherwise, another great episode, and can't wait to see what they're going to do more with Soldier Boy and the weapon that he has to depower people. Like, I think that's I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I have a feeling with the way that these guys write Garth Ennis's characters, it's going to be fun and bloody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think we can be definitely guaranteed that. Mark, what about yourself? What have you been thinking of The Boys this season?
So I just watched all 4 episodes, I think, at once this past week. So they might blend together a bit for me. But yeah, I was a bit hesitant, honestly, with season 3 of The Boys because season 2, I did like season 2, but it kind of left me at a spot where I'm really fearing what I would call Walking Dead syndrome, and that is that the story keeps dragging and dragging and dragging. They keep finding ways to prolong it, but I actually, when I watched this season, I actually didn't think it was doing that. I thought this actually did justify it, and it was a lot more interesting than I thought it would be. So I'm actually really here for it. I love how they changed the story. Although I think they wrote themselves in a corner, whereas if Homelander doesn't really die this season, it's going to be hard to kind of justify having this story. But we'll see what they do with it. But I'm actually really digging this making it more about Homelander versus them, and them having to directly confront him. And I absolutely, one of my favorite pulls of the show is the whole Huey, right? His name is Huey. His relationship with Starlight, and the boy band guy I wasn't a big fan of, so I'm kind of glad that Homelander ripped him apart. I was like, great, he's out of the show now. But it's also good this plot device. Like, as soon as he went to A-Train, I was like, oh, he's dead. Like, A-Train is totally gonna betray him. And as far as Kimiko goes, I think there's another path where she survives, because she had been talking all season about how much she doesn't like her powers, how she hates her powers. So I think that possibly she will survive but not have her powers anymore. So they'll explore that storyline. Maybe she'll get character growth where she wants her powers back, because it does seem like Soldier Boy's weird power thingies was to take away people's powers.
Yeah,
which
agreed.
To me opens up a lot of interesting storytelling, a lot of interesting plot devices. So I'm here for it. Like, this season's like won me over. Has been much better than I thought it would be, and so yeah, can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah. So obviously, I think they're going to, if Soldier Boy is able to remove powers, they got to stick him on Homelander to see if he can affect him. Is it a temporary removal? Is it a permanent removal? I think that's probably where we're going to be going next to see how this does end up with Kimiko. And I definitely hope we don't lose her as a character because she's awesome and she's fun. And I like seeing her in the show. And I love her and Frenchie together. I just love their dynamic. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers all this. Does anybody have any final thoughts on any of these shows or Obi-Wan or expectations of the future? Nope.
No,
Straightforward, folks. You get it all on the table. Yeah, nice little discussion.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was like, no, I feel bad because we're just like, no.
Well, I mean, again, I think the enjoyment for all of these, where we're coming in, Ramona and Eric Scott mentioning in with Envy Warren in here too, that often these are just, is it geared towards you? Is it not? Are you taking that journey or is it not? And it's okay either way.
Yeah. There's
so many other offerings, and even if there's episodes you don't like, there's always going to be another episode that comes in that will offer you something that you enjoyed. I think overall, these are giving us things that we want, maybe just not always in the package we're hoping for, but that's what part of the journey is. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone in the chat, really appreciate it. Mark, why don't you let people know where you are and what you're doing?
All right, so real quick, I actually wanted to show you guys what I've been looking at while you guys are talking most of the time. Let's see.
Kitties.
Hold on. They're not doing it now, but they would have been jumping up like crazy. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. So yes, my channel is Enchantment of Eternity. I am covering Star Trek Strange New Worlds, an actually really good Star Trek show, probably the best newer one so far, although past 2 episodes have been a slight disappointment. Not as good as the first 5, but I'm hoping that they'll pull through because it's been just overall an amazing show, giving everything a Star Trek fan wants out of Star Trek. And also covering other stuff, like as I said, I'm going through Rebels at the moment. I just posted my review for season 2, and next month I'll watch season 3. And I will do a review for Obi-Wan once the show is finished on my channel. I'm just doing all sorts of other things. Like I put up a video recently for my top 20 favorite episodes of all time, which was very hard to make, but I did that. So yeah, you can check out my channel for all that and more.
Excellent. Yes, everyone, head over to Enchantment of Eternity, subscribe, hit those notifications. Mark is amazing. If you are a Star Trek fan, this is the channel to check out. Rob, any final thoughts or notices for you? I know Rob has left social media, folks. You ain't finding him anywhere.
I'm gone. I disappeared. I bounced out. If you want, I'll just raise a recommendation. I watched his 20 best episodes, and it was a really interesting list, so I highly recommend you check it out. Otherwise, I'm just dicking around, rewatching Community and Breaking Bad, and that's it.
All good
Playing
shows.
video games, watching TV shows. I'm a fan right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining me so much. Thank everyone for joining me in the archives, everyone joining us live. We've got 1 episode left here. And then, of course, Westworld Season 4 is coming up. Looking forward to seeing that. And then there's more stuff coming. We're here on Thursday, 6 o'clock. We'll see you next week. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.